The first time I met Clara, I truly tried to like her. I came with a gift basket, a warm smile, and a heart wide open. After all, she was the woman my only son Nathan had chosen. I had watched him grow from a quiet, kind boy into a man who, unfortunately, became very good at ignoring cruelty when it wore lipstick and smiled pretty. Please subscribe to our channel and tell me in comments from where are you watching this video. It was their engagement brunch. I'd spent the morning making a simple lemon pound cake, the kind Nathan used to beg for as a child. I wore my nicest lavender dress and a spritz of my favorite gardenia perfume. The house buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses as friends and Clara's extended family fluttered around. I stepped into the room holding the cake, smiling. That's when I heard her. "She smells like old milk," Clara whispered to her bridesmaids, barely suppressing a giggle. The room didn't hear it, but I did. One of the girls even snorted behind a champagne glass. My heart dropped so fast it almost knocked the plate from my hands. Nathan looked at me with a blank face. Not a word, not a defense, not even a glance. I stood there, frozen with a smile that started to shiver. I put the cake down on the table. Clara smiled at me. "Oh, that looks charming. Did you bake it?" Her tone was sharp enough to cut through my spine. "Yes," I answered softly. "Well, we'll make sure the caterers don't get jealous," she smirked again. That night, I went home and sat in the quiet. I didn't cry. Not yet. I sat with every wrinkle in my hand, every memory of wiping Nathan's fevered forehead at midnight, every meal I skipped so he could eat, every suit I tailored by hand when he was applying for college scholarships. And now, I was old milk. I wasn't heartbroken. No, I was done. I reached for my notebook, the one I hadn't opened since my husband passed. I wrote down every single date, contract, contact number, and deposit I had covered for that wedding. Clara's parents weren't as wealthy as they pretended. I had been mother of the groom, but secretly, also the wallet behind the white flowers in the boutique vineyard. I called my lawyer first thing in the morning. "I need to know how to unwind several deposits," I said calmly, "and how to make sure I'm not financially or emotionally roped into a marriage that insults me before it even begins." He chuckled. "Mrs. Klein, I always knew you had a steel spine. Let's get to work." And work we did, but not loud, not messy, not even vengeful. Just precise. I wore pearls to the tasting the next week. I smiled and nodded when Clara raved about buttercream tears and imported roses. I listened when she rolled her eyes as I offered a suggestion and said, "You're just used to simple things." Nathan, still silent. That's when I knew I wasn't losing a son. He was already gone. But Clara? She had no idea what I was building behind her back, something stronger than a wedding registry, something called consequences. 2 weeks before the wedding, Clara hosted a bridal shower at a boutique hotel ballroom I had reserved and paid for myself. I walked in with my head held high, dressed in a sapphire blue coat dress that once belonged to my mother, a family heirloom, one of the few pieces of grace I still carried from the past. I smiled through the fake niceties, the forced laughter, the sickeningly sweet champagne Clara's friends insisted on pouring, but my mind was already 12 steps ahead. The cake designer called me just that morning to confirm the final delivery time. I told him, "There's been a change of plan. Cancel it." When he asked if he should call the bride, I said with steel in my voice, "She doesn't write the checks." That afternoon, Clara opened one of her gifts, a luxury robe set. She held it up and shouted, "Ooh, just in time for the honeymoon Nathan's mom isn't coming to." Everyone laughed. Even Nathan chuckled. I stayed quiet, but my silence had never been empty. The guest list? I had it changed a week ago. The venue contract? Transferred under my LLC and now marked as a private event on the wedding day. The caterers, florists, and event staff, all paid in full. Then instructed that the booking had been revoked due to unexpected restructuring. Clara didn't suspect a thing. The next week, Nathan came by my house with an envelope. "Clara and I noticed you haven't been very involved lately," he began, trying to sound diplomatic. "We thought you might want to just come as a guest, not stress about wedding stuff." You mean the wedding I funded, Nathan? He flinched. Look, Clara just wants to do things her way. You're making her uncomfortable and... I raised a hand. Nathan, your fiancé mocked me, publicly, several times, and you never once stepped in. He blinked. You want to marry her? Fine, but don't expect me to celebrate a woman who treats me like I'm disposable. He opened his mouth again, but I was done. I handed him an envelope of my own, smaller, sealed, and stamped with gold. This is the revised agreement with the vendors. You'll find you don't have a venue, a florist, a planner, or a cake anymore. Oh, and I filed the refund paperwork under my name since I paid for it all. He stood frozen. You canceled the wedding? Number Clara did, the moment she thought she could humiliate the woman who raised you. He left in silence. But I wasn't finished. I called the lawyer that evening and told him I wanted to make an amendment to my will. Everything. My house, my savings, even the cottage I had in Maine that Nathan adored was to be redirected, not to charity. Number, that would have been too impersonal. To Clara's ex-best friend, Olivia, the one she ghosted when Nathan entered the picture, the one who now worked tirelessly as a hospice nurse and still sent me holiday cards. She once helped me clean up my kitchen after Clara spilled wine on my rug and laughed. I'd rather my legacy go to someone who knows the value of a human soul, I said. And Nathan? My lawyer asked. Nothing, I replied, except a front row seat. The morning of the wedding came like any other, except the venue was locked, the gates chained shut with a sign that read, Event canceled. Refunds processed to original payer. Clara arrived in full makeup and an ivory gown, ready to bask in her own fantasy. She stepped out of the town car, heels clicking on the pavement, and stopped dead in front of the sign. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then she turned, eyes wide, scanning the empty parking lot. No staff, no florals, no tables, no guests. Nathan ran toward her from another car, phone in hand. They're saying the reservation doesn't exist. The catering invoice bounced. The planner's number is disconnected. Clara was already dialing her own phone, muttering, That old woman did this. She actually did this? She did. I stood across the street, dressed in quiet gray, a cup of coffee in hand, watching the scene unfold. Olivia stood beside me, equally composed. I had invited her there, not to gloat, but to witness the moment. A private vindication for both of us. She really thought I'd just swallow it all, I said, more to myself than anyone. Clara's voice suddenly rang out across the street. You ruined everything! Her hair had started to fall, her lipstick slightly smeared. This was my day! Nathan didn't stop her. He looked just as stunned. I stepped forward calmly. You had a wedding, Clara. You just forgot the marriage part, and the decency. Do you know what this cost me? Not as much as it cost me to raise a son who didn't defend his own mother, I replied coldly. Nathan tried to step in, but I held my hand up. Number, let her speak. Let her tell the world why she deserves to mock a woman who gave everything so her son could have a life better than hers. Clara sneered, but there was panic behind her eyes now. Cameras were recording. Guests who had arrived, confused, were beginning to gather, realizing something dramatic was unfolding. And someone from a local wedding blog had already started a live stream. I turned to Nathan one last time. You asked me once why I couldn't just accept Clara for who she is. The better question, Nathan, is why you ever did. I walked away. That evening, my lawyer confirmed the new will was notarized and filed. Olivia would inherit the coastal cottage, the trust fund, and the antique jewelry Clara once asked if she could borrow for the honeymoon. I left a handwritten letter on the dining table of my house, now listed for sale, with a single sentence. When respect is optional, so is inheritance. Weeks later, I received a letter in the mail. Not from Nathan. From Clara. It said, I may have laughed at you once, but I'm not laughing anymore. You were right. He doesn't protect anyone but himself. I should have listened. It was unsigned. No return address. But the handwriting trembled like someone finally realizing what they'd lost. I moved to Maine quietly. Started volunteering at a literacy center for elderly women. planted hydrangeas along the porch, watched the sea roll in and out without needing permission to exist. I hadn't canceled Clara's wedding. I had simply removed myself from a celebration where I was never welcome, and taken every single piece of my legacy with me, not out of cruelty, but out of clarity, because some people don't deserve your presence, let alone your name in a will.